Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunnavadi Paschata Dishatani Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. So, a long time ago, there was a very illustrious king. His name was Rishabdev. He was an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rishabdev, following the Vedic culture, at some point retired from his family life. This is one thing, one aspect which was very common in the Vedic culture. They used to follow the 4 stages of life. First stage is the student life, then householder life, then retired life, and then renounced life. Brahmachari, Grihastha, Banaprastha, and Sannyas. The first aspect, first stage of life is student life. Not that right after the birth they go into the student life. They used to enter into student life at the age of 6 or 7 years old. When they are able to, when an individual could be separated from the mother's care. Until the age of 5, mother's care is necessary for children. And then they would go into the Guru's ashram and study scriptures there. And student life means celibate life, restrained from sense gratification. So brahmachari life doesn't simply mean just celibate life, life of a celibate. Celibacy is one aspect of it. But the consideration is to become situated in spiritual culture. Brahma acharati iti brahmachari. Brahma, spiritual situation. Then after they completed their studies, they would enter into household life. After proper completion, they would enter into household life, get married, and raise their family, take care of the responsibilities of family as well as the society. That is a grihastha life. And then at one point one would retire from the grihastha life. Retired life is there now also, with a little difference. Vedic understanding of retired life is at the age of 50. Panchashurdhe banam prajit. At the age of 50, one should retire. But now what is the retirement age? 65. Okay. And when they retire, what do? They retire from one job and take up a job somewhere. And if they don't have to take up a job, their job becomes get glued to the TV. So that is the unfortunate state of affairs. They're retiring, but retiring without any spiritual objective. And then after retirement life, like one is to become situated in renounced order. Why not directly renounced order? Because household life develops various types of attachment. So to detach oneself from those attachment, there was the need of this retired period. And we see in Srimad Bhagavatam, you will see practically every king at some point retired and went to the forest. The king would give up his palace, give up all this extremely luxurious and comfortable lifestyle, and either alone or sometimes with his wife would just move into the forest. And in the forest, not that they'll take all their entourage and facilities in the forest, they would just immediately get into forest life. They would, at the most, they would build a small little hutment on the bank of a river and live there. So Rishabdev, although he was the king, not only the king, he was the ruler of the entire earth planet. And he gave up everything. And so in this way, Rishabdev was he took to retired life. What are they doing there? They don't have to hide there, let them come in the front. Maybe she's crying because she's been kept there. She'll stop crying if she's brought to the front. So, now Rishabdev was an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he, when he retired, he set the perfect example of retired life. That stage of life is called Abadhuta life. His condition was like that of a madman. Sudhakar, who is there?
She said she'll come back in 10 minutes.
Huh?
Some devotee, she said she'll come back in 10 minutes. The kid is reading cemetery.
No, at least they can not there. Okay, it's all right. There. And anyway, so King Rishabdev, he at a later stage of his retirement, he was behaving like a madman. There is two types of madness. One is material madness due to losing one's ability to rationally think. And another kind of madness is being very much absorbed in the thoughts of the Lord and developing his loving relationship. One behaves like a madman. He does not have any external consciousness. So that state of madness is called Abadhuta stage, transcendental madness. Rishabdev did not have any external consciousness. He did not have any awareness of his body. Therefore, he did not feel the need to cover his body. He didn't feel the need to eat, didn't feel the need to sleep, and just reacting the way he would feel due to his ecstatic relationship with the Lord. Sometimes he would cry, sometimes he would laugh, sometimes he would dance, sometimes he would roll in the ground, sometimes he'll faint. And Rishabdev was just traveling just wandering like a madman. But thousands of people are following him because others could recognize his exalted position. They could recognize his exalted position and they were just following him. So while traveling in this way, he came to the South India in a province called Konka and Benka. And there was a king. His name was Arhat. And King Arhat was surprised to see that here is a person who doesn't possess anything. He is stark naked. He does not even, completely disheveled. He doesn't even care for his body. And thousands of people are following him. Whereas I am a king and no one cares for me like that. Although I am a king, I do not get this kind of attention and respect and adoration. So, this King Arhat decided to act like Rishabhdev. He thought that is the real thing to do. And so this is how less informed people started generally imitate without understanding the spirit and the exalted position of a personality. So anyway, this was Rishabhdev's situation. Rishabhdev had 100 sons, and eldest of them was King Bharat, who became, this is a Vedic culture also, as I mentioned yesterday, the eldest son inherits the legacy, the inheritance. And the other brothers, they assist him. And the elder brother takes care of the younger brothers like a father takes care of his sons. So eldest brother becomes the responsible head of the family and takes care of the rest of the family. So King Bharat became the king after Rishabhdev. Out of other 99 sons, 9 became exalted sages. They are known as Navajogendra, 9 sages. Their activities also has been described in Srimad Bhagavatam. Their Kabi, Habi, Antariksha, Karabhajan, etc. So these they 9 became exalted king, exalted yogis, best of the yogis, Yogendras, Nava Yogendras. And 81 of them became the follower of their elder brother. Then they assisted King Bharat. And King Bharat, mind you, became the ruler of the entire earth planet. That was the political situation of the world at that time. One king used to rule over the entire earth planet, including the oceans. And the center of that, the capital used to be in India, Bharatvarsha. The rest of the world was ruled by one ruler. Prabhupada pointed out that up to Parikshit Maharaj, we find that one ruler was ruling the world. But as the Kali Yuga began, the things started to collapse, the structure started to collapse. And as a result of that, now then there were many kings. Previously also there used to be many kings, but all the other kings used to be subordinate to one supreme king called Sarvabhauma. There was Nripati, Samrat, then Sarvabhauma. When one was ruling over many other kings, that was the status of Samrat or monarch. And one ruler who ruled over all the kings of this earth, planet, he was considered to be Sarvabhauma, the sovereign ruler of the entire earth planet. And their domain was not only the land part of the earth, but also the water part of the earth, the ocean part of the earth. Sa Sagara. Sagar means ocean. Sa means with or including. The earth planet, including the ocean, was their domain, was their kingdom. So King Bharat was ruling over the entire earth planet. And then at one point, Bharat Maharaj also left his kingdom and retired. He went to the forest. And there he built a small hut on a bank of a river, and he was spending his time being absorbed in the service and thoughts of the Lord. And it has been described that he achieved the stage of bhava, meaning experiencing transcendental emotion, loving emotion towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You remember the different gradual stages of elevation, spiritual consciousness, Shado Shraddha, Tat Atato, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya. Bhajana Kriya means becoming fixed up in devotional service according to the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. And then as a result of that, anartha nibritti, undesirable attachments ceases. And then nishtha, one becomes fixed up. Ruchi, one develops the taste. Ashakti develops attachment. And then comes bhava, experiencing transcendental emotion towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So King Bharat actually reached that stage of experiencing this emotion which caused him to shed tears thinking about the Lord and experience these emotions. And one day when Bharat Maharaj was sitting on the bank of the river, meditating upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then all of a sudden he heard the sound of a lion's roar. And at that time, a pregnant deer, becoming afraid, tried to jump across the river. But the doe did not succeed. In that effort, the doe died, and she was pregnant with a baby deer. That baby deer was born, and it was being carried away by the currents of the river. So seeing that deer, Bharat Maharaj rescued that baby deer. and started to take care. Like just after birth, the baby needs so much care, and Bharat Maharaj got completely absorbed, taking care of that little deer. And as a result of that, Bharat Maharaj, who left the entire kingdom of the entire earth planet, left his family, his own children, citizens, wealth, everything, became attached to this deer. So much so that when the deer grew up a little bit and started to move here and there, he used to get into acute anxiety thinking about the safety of the deer. Oh, did some ferocious animal attack the deer? Where did it go? It didn't come back for so long. Will it ever come back? Has it been devoured by some other animals? And in this way, Bharat Maharaj developed his intense attachment to the deer. And eventually, when the time came for him to leave his body, Bharat Maharaj left his body thinking about the deer. And what was the consequence? I'm sure all of you know. What actually happens with the thought that we leave our body, that becomes the progression to our next body. With the thought that we leave our body, accordingly we get our next body. Jang jang bapi smaran bhavam tajatante kalevaram. Tang tamaive iti konteya sadatat bhava bhavita. Therefore we should be very careful. This incident is a wonderful example of how should we prepare ourselves for leaving our bodies. We should be very careful where we develop our attachments. So Bharat Maharaj, in spite of his very, very exalted spiritual position, he fell down. He got an animal body, a deer body. Although he got a deer body, but because of his exalted spiritual situation, he remembered everything from his previous life. That stage is called Jati Smara. One remembers his previous life. Bharat Maharaj could remember his previous life. And he remembered what happened. Just due to one attachment, he had to now take to a deer body, take birth as a deer. And because he remembered the cause of his fall down, he now decided not to make any mistake in this life. Although he was in a deer body, even as a deer, he would not indulge in any kind of luxury and comfort and sense gratification. This deer would not even indulge in soft green grass, which is the favorite food of the deer. He would just eat the dry leaves for his sustenance. And it's separated from his family. He would not even want to develop his attachment to his deer family. He left his family and went to an ashram where the saintly people were residing. And when the saintly personalities would discuss about Krishna consciousness, he would just sit there and listen. I mean, we notice even some animals display this kind of exalted situation. In the early 80s, we used to go to Vrindavan, often we used to go to Vrindavan and observe Ekadasi. And we used to observe Ekadasi those days In the morning, doing the parikrama of Vrindavan, then fast even from water the whole day, chant 64 rounds and stay up the whole night. It's a very ecstatic program. So we used to go for a Vrindavan parikrama in the morning. And every time we would go, there would be a dog waiting outside our temple for us to come out, and he would do the parikrama with us. So what does it imply? What does it indicate? Although in a dog body, he is a devotee. For some reason or other, he has got a dog's body, but he knows the benefit of doing parikrama on Ekadasi day. And the dog was really amazing. Sometimes the dog would walk ahead of us. There were quite a few of us would be there, 20, 25. Tamal Krishna Maharaj was there. He and I often used to be in Vrindavan observing Chaturma and these Ekadasis. And this dog would walk, and when some other dogs would attack, he would just walk in between us for protection. Just quietly he would just walk in, and we would walk and he would keep on walking with us. So this way we can see that even the animals display such spiritual consciousness. So we have to understand that these are not ordinary animals. Some exalted spirit soul, for some reason or other, have got into an animal body. Just as Bharat Maharaj, in a deer body, he was listening to the saintly personalities talking about Krishna and Krishna consciousness. So Bharat Maharaj, in this way, he spent his life as a deer. And in his next life, he was born as a son, the youngest son of an exalted Brahmana. And this time, he was a self-realized soul from birth. But because he remembered his past life experiences, he did not want to take any chance. From his childhood, in order not to have any attachment develop with his family members or in family life, Bharat Maharaj started to behave like a retarded child. He was behaving just like a retarded child. Like can't speak, didn't have any intelligence. Like as you see, like some retarded children. So he started to behave like that. And his father was very affectionate towards him, and he tried to give him the Brahminical education, he tried to give him Brahmin initiation. And Bharat pretended as if he can't even understand anything. Because he was already in a situation where all these rituals were not really necessary, because he was situated in a perfected spiritual condition, which is in a self-realized state. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma, Brahma Bhuta stage, Jivan Mukta stage. And as long as his father was there, he was taking care. But when the father died, his other brothers didn't even want to take care of him. Rather, they started to exploit him. His share of inheritance was deprived of him. They gave him just a little food to eat, and he was treated like in a very bad way. They would make him work hard just for morsel of food. And even the neighbors started to take advantage. They would give him some, they would allure him to get him some food, and they would make him work for them. But Jara Bharat was totally unperturbed. He was fine. Like, who are you exploiting, me or my body? Okay, this body is not me, so if you want to use this body for your purpose, go ahead and do it. That was his attitude. One night, Jara Bharat was kept to guard the field. Like, often when the harvest is ripe, some wild animals come and plunder the harvest, like wild boars and other wild animals at night. So that's why there was a need for guarding the field. And during the day also birds come and eat up the harvest. So they have a thing like in India, I'm sure you all have seen, they create a kind of a figure in the middle of the field with bamboos and cloth, as if somebody is standing in the field. And sometimes they have some tins hanging, and they shake it, and due to shaking the sound drives the animals away. So anyway, Jara Bharat was guarding the field in that way. So at that time, that was a new moon night. And new moon night is the night for worshipping Kali. Amavasya. When there is no moon in the sky, it's pitch dark. That is the time when Goddess Kali is worshipped. And in order to worship Kali, sometimes some people, they sacrifice even human beings, called Naravali. So a bunch of dacoits were preparing to sacrifice a human being to Kali at that night. But somehow their victim ran away. So they were looking for somebody to offer to Kali. And they found Jara Bharat in the middle of the field. So they caught him and took him to be offered to Kali. So they bathed him, they put a hibiscus garland on his neck. Hibiscus is Kali's favorite flower. Therefore, do not offer hibiscus to Krishna. Different personalities have different flowers, favorite flowers. Kali's favorite flower is Rakta Jaba, or red hibiscus. Shiva's favorite is Dhatura flower. But Krishna's, any fragrant flower is Krishna's favorite. Therefore, when you offer flowers to Krishna, make your point, it is fragrant. Of course, nowadays, the flowers don't have any fragrance left. I remember when I was young, the roses used to have such sweet fragrance. Like if we entered into the garden, we would just smell, we'll get the flavor, the fragrance of the flowers. But nowadays, looks beautiful. I think I have some here. Nice, beautiful rose, but no fragrance. Anyway, so at least if fragrance or no fragrance, offer such flowers that are meant to have fragrance. And so anyway, so these flowers, hibiscus garland was put onto Jara Bharat's neck, and they put him in a jupakashta. That is a U-shaped wooden structure. They actually put the animal or the individual who is going to be slaughtered in that and lock it up with another piece of wood. Like it has holes in that called Jupakashta. It's a U-shaped thing with holes running parallel, and according to the size of the neck, they pass one wooden stick to lock it up, and then they slaughter the animal. So they put Jarabharat. Jarabharat did not protest anything. So this is the sign, another sign of a pure devotee. Like he doesn't do anything for his self-defense. He is completely dependent upon Krishna. Krishna, if you want me to be slaughtered, fine. That is his attitude. But although Jarabharat was totally unperturbed and did not do anything for his self-defense, Kali could not tolerate that. So Kali appeared from her deity form. She picked up the chopper with which they were about to kill Jarabharat. And with that chopper, she started to slaughter all these demons, all these dacoits. So this is how the devotee is protected by the Lord and his devotees. Kali is a devotee of the Lord. She is a Vaishnavi. So how can a Vaishnavi tolerate such offense to a Vaishnava? Anyway, Jarabharat was happily carrying on, just wandering around. Then one day, a king of the province called Sindhu and Sauvir province, King Rahugana, he was going to Kapil Muni's ashram. Rahugana also is an exalted, although he was a king, but he was spiritually quite advanced. So King Rahugana was going in a palanquin, and his palanquin carriers, felt the need of another palanquin bearer. And while looking for such a palanquin bearer, they found Jarabharat. They saw that this person is quite dumb, but very strong. So they thought, well, he's a fit candidate for a carrier of palanquin. So they got him and engaged him in carrying the palanquin. Although he is such an exalted, pure devotee, but these ignorant individuals engaged him in such an activity. So Jarabharat he was completely unperturbed. He was carrying the palanquin. Now, when you carry palanquin, there are 5-10 individuals carrying. And in order to maintain the smoothness of the movement, they have to put their steps in uniform. Like when they march, then they have this left, right, and things like that. The palanquin bearers also, in order to keep the pace, they have to put their steps in rhythm. Often they sing songs also. I remember when I was young, I used to hear this palanquin bearer songs. And anyway, that's another thing. So, now Jarabharat, he was so non-violent and so concerned about killing even insects or ants, that before taking his next step, Jarabharat would look ahead of him, 3 feet ahead of him, where he was going to put his foot. And as a result of that, the harmony was broken of stepping. And as a result of that, the palanquin started to shake. If one person goes off beat, then the harmony will be, the smoothness of movement will be affected. So the king got upset, he called out, he said, what's happening? Why can't you carry this palanquin properly? So other palanquin bearers, being afraid, they told the king that it's not us, my lord. It is this one, new one that has been appointed. It is he who is causing the trouble. So the king saw this new one and he said, very sarcastically, he told, oh, I can see you are so fatigued. And besides that, you are so old, although Jarabharat was young. And your body is so emaciated, although he was very strong and stout. So king, in a sarcastic way, he started to insult Jarabharat. And he said, my dear sir, no, my dear brother, please try to do your job properly. Jarabharat couldn't care less, carried on. But now this time again, in spite of being ordered by the king to carry the palanquin properly, when Jarabharat failed to do that, the king became very, very upset. And he started to chastise him. He came out from his palanquin, he started to chastise him very heavily. And at that time, Jarabharat just responded by saying, my dear sir, whatever you said is right. This body is what we have said is like that. But after all, it's a body. It's not me. I am beyond all that. It's the body which is carrying the palanquin, and it is being subjected to your chastisement. And in this way, Jarabharat gave a whole discourse on the philosophy of the difference between the body and the soul. And he pointed out that his identity is not with the body, but with the soul. Therefore, whatever you have said about the body, it's perfectly all right. You have all the right to say that, and it doesn't bother me at all. So when the king heard him speak like that, he realized that this is not an ordinary person. The king stepped out of his palanquin, fell at his feet, begged forgiveness. My dear sir, I can see that you are such an exalted personality. I am not afraid of Indra's thunderbolt. I am not afraid of Lord Shiva's trident. I am not afraid of Kuvera's weapon. I am not afraid of fire. I am not afraid of sun, moon. But I am terribly afraid of committing Vaishnava Aparadha. And this is how King Rahugana recognized Jarabharat's exalted position, and King Rahugana fell at his feet, begging for his forgiveness, and Jarabharat very mercifully instructed him on the signs of Krishna consciousness. So, please read this aspect of Srimad Bhagavatam. You'll see it's such a wonderfully enlightening chapter. The whole story, there's so many things we are learning from this. Like one thing is that we run the risk of losing our exalted spiritual position if we develop a wrong attachment. And in this way, we saw what happened just because he was the king of the entire earth planet and gave up his kingdom, went to the forest, cultivated his Krishna consciousness, made such an advancement in his spiritual life. But even then, he developed his attachment due to some carelessness. In a way, it is unavoidable. How could he be so heartless not to take care of the deer? So in that sense, he did the right thing. But the problem is, what was the problem? Attachment to that individual directly or developing attachment through Krishna. If he saw this deer, baby deer, as a part and parcel of Krishna, a spirit soul in this material nature, needing help, and took care of that deer with his Krishna consciousness or with Krishna in the center, that problem wouldn't have taken place. That problem wouldn't have been there. Because thinking of the deer with Krishna in the center is one thing. But thinking directly, oh my little child, what will happen to you if I don't take care of you? Then all kinds of calamities can befall upon you. And when this deer did not come back in time or was missing, started feeling anxiety. So that actually the unfortunate mistake on the part of Bharat Maharaj. But then again we see that even though we may have such a fall down, but if we remain in Krishna consciousness, then our consciousness will remain unaffected by the situation of the body. That is the advantage with Krishna consciousness. The advancement that one makes, that advanced state, he remains in that advanced state, even though he may be in an unfavorable situation and in an unfavorable body. So then Jarabharat looked at, even though he was in a body of a deer, but he didn't forget about his spiritual advancement. That advancement of the soul remained. And he acted accordingly, and he didn't want to make the same mistake again. He didn't allow himself to develop undesirable attachments anymore. And therefore he started to pretend like he was a retarded individual. And people were taking advantage of him. He didn't protest. He just accepted it. And this way he learned to separate the identity of the body and the soul. So this is a very, very informative chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. So please read it carefully. As I told earlier, what I am trying to do is just giving you some directions and try to generate some interest to read Srimad Bhagavatam carefully. Okay, now another wonderful incident in that respect is, I'll just discuss about that one briefly and then we'll go to the question-answer session. Or should we start question-answer now? Stories, okay. Okay. Okay, another very informative story is the anecdote of Ajamil. Ajamil was the son of a Brahmana. And from his childhood he was trained up in his Brahminical culture. That is the Vedic culture. In the Vedic culture, in a kind of a family one is born, he gets trained up accordingly. That's how one actually develops his occupation according to his birth. Like say for example, a potter's son, from his childhood he would be assisting his father. And as a result of that, he would learn how to make pots. And that would become his profession. Similarly, a warrior's son, he would be with his father and he would see the father using weapons, and he also will be learning in a playful way. He also would learn to use weapons. Similarly, a Brahmana's son from his childhood would be trained to perform Brahminical activities. So Ajamil from his childhood was being trained up in this way, and he was a very, very wonderful child. Very obedient, very intelligent, at the same time very composed and very submissive, and very seriously involved in the activities that his father was leading him to. Reciting, memorizing verses, reciting mantras. And so this is how Ajamil was being trained. And in course of time, Ajamil grew up, and the Brahmanas often need wood to perform sacrifice, to burn wood to burn in the sacrifice. So often, the Brahmana boy has to go to the forest to collect wood. So one day when Ajamil was in the forest collecting wood, he just happened to see a man and a woman indulging in inappropriate activities. So an innocent boy, young man actually by that time, but just the sight attracted him so much that he just got completely overwhelmed. And actually that woman was a prostitute. And he approached that woman. He fell in love with that woman. And that woman was having all kinds of demands. And Ajamil, being a Brahmana boy, did not know how to earn money. Because the Brahmanas do not get into earning money and trading and things. So, but this woman had her demands. Oh, I want this, I want that. And being provoked in this way, Ajamil started to steal. Then, when he became more mature in stealing, he started to rob. And he started to kill people to rob their money. And from this exalted Brahminical situation, Ajamil became extremely degraded, just because of the wrong association. And in this degraded condition, Ajamil, while living with this woman, had many children. The youngest of his children was named Narayan. And the time came for Ajamil to leave his body. So, because he was so sinful, Jamadutas came to reclaim his body, reclaim him, his subtle body. And seeing the Jamadutas, Ajamil realized that now these Jamadutas have come to take him. He is going to die. And out of fear and due to his intense attachment to his youngest son, he called out to him, Narayan, Narayan. And because Ajamil chanted the name of the Lord, Narayan, immediately Vishnudutas appeared there. 4 Vishnudutas appeared there, and they asked this Jamadutas, leave him. He is not in your custody anymore. The Jamadutas said, look, we have been sent